isolated throughout Tarkir, the Jeskai has such a stronghold of powerful cards that to build a Jeskai deck usually runs a minimum of $400, if not higher. But I think even Khan Narset would admire the purchasing prowess I am about to reveal, as I cut 75% off the cost while still keeping 75% of the cards. That's right, it's the Jeskai way to a $100 deck with cunning substitutions. Before we begin, a few words about this particular type of budget deck. Unlike my last video where I offered a more or less complete standard deck for around $20, the following budget deck is going to have a lot of room for upgrades and improvements. What I have done is basically work backwards, settling on a template Jeskai build, and then identifying the cards of highest cost and looking for substitutions. To show you what I mean, let's just start with Sarkhan, as he's in just about every build and head and shoulders above all other cards when it comes to cost. Whether you like a build that runs a playset of Sarkhans or only two of, he's one of the highest prices around. As of the filming of this video, the morning of Thursday, October 9th, Sarkhan's average price is around $40. So what we must do is ask ourselves whether or not there's a card which is significantly cheaper, but that offers most of what Sarkhan offers. This style of substitution budget looks to trade a little function for a lot of savings. Stormbreath Dragon is our best bet for a budget replacement, and yes, I realize it may seem absurd to suggest a $15 mythic as the budget alternative, but this is standard we're talking about. Long term, it is one of the most expensive formats, especially when a new set has been released. But $15 is much, much better than $40, and Stormbreath has the same mana cost and is almost identical to Sarkhan's first ability, the one he will be using the most. In fact, it is fair to say that Sarkhan's first ability essentially turns him into an indestructible Stormbreath Dragon. Either way, swapping out our Sarkhans for Stormbreaths is our first and possibly easiest budget substitution. Let's see what else is costly on our list. Finding a substitute for Chandra is a lot more tricky. While not ridiculously overpriced at about $7 each, most Jeskai builds run at least one if not two of her main board. We can try and cut cost by replicating her first ability with a few barrages of boulders. While it's not an ability we can use every turn, as Chandra can, with a little luck we might get the ferocious bonus. Again, we're saving $14 by using two commons instead. Rabblemaster is our biggest problem, and he will continue to be our biggest problem in just about every deck that uses red mana. He's so powerful that he's more or less a must-have. He's ridiculously expensive at $19, and there's simply nothing out there that can replace him. He's one of a kind, nothing comes close. So in the case of Rabblemaster, our substitution should be something that works effectively with our deck, applies pressure to our opponent, but doesn't cost an arm and a leg in terms of dollars. My choice for this spot is a Monastery Swift Spear. We're likely going to have prowess go off frequently enough, and she adds much-needed pressure. Obviously, she's nowhere near Rabblemaster, but nothing is. An uncommon that's $4.50 each? Give me a break. Stoke the Flames must go, but what to replace it with? As with Rabblemaster, we're going to have to make a judgment call on something that works well for the deck, and I'm going to wet my toes in the waters of Jeskai Counterburn just a bit. Mindswipe is nice and cheap at only $1.50, but instead of a full playset, I'll just swap in two. I'll also add two more deflecting palms to try and protect ourselves and hurt our opponents. Most builds already run at least one copy, usually holding 2 to 3 in the sideboard, so I'm just going to main board 3 of these instead. Mantis Rider is something I'm going to say is worth the money. While it is almost offensive that this card went from $1.50 to $6.50 literally in the span of a few hours, it is part of the foundation of this deck. A particularly cash-strapped player might play around with a playset of Highspire Mantises instead, but I'm going to say this is our one justified splurge. And those are the extent of our budget cuts, aside of course from the sideboard and manabase, which I'll get to in just a moment. But first, let's see what the rest of the deck looks like. As far as the mana base is concerned, we're gonna run a little wild here. Instead of 8 Scrylands, we'll run a playset of Mystic Monasteries, and just a single of both Swiftwater Cliffs and a Wind-Scarred Crag. Beyond that, it's just half a dozen mountains, half a dozen islands, and half a dozen plains. Yeah, it's a little risky and far from ideal, but sometimes that's what budget brewing is. If you already have Scrylands or Painlands in our colors, even if you don't already have a playset, start swapping out our substitutions for them. With each one of the non-budget cards you already own that you place in this deck, you make it that much more stronger and effective. The sideboard for Jeskai is highly dependent on meta and still highly in flux. Still, most tend to run a Keranos and a Naseret, as well as Anger of the Gods, and usually an additional Dig Through Time. This is a small sack of gold in and of itself. How do you standard players do it? We can keep the magma sprays and erases and swap in some negates, which some lists run anyway, a few extra disdainful strokes, and some added mind swipes for extra control. Finally, a couple Nyx Fleece Rams for luck. And that's the way you can make a $400 deck into a much more affordable $100 budget build. The majority of that budget build is still the same as the full version. And while not all of our substitutions are ideal, many of them are giving us virtually the same effect. Play around with this deck and see how much you like it. See how well it works for you. If you feel committed that you're going to be playing in this standard season, then you can decide where and how you want to upgrade. But maybe you've got your sights set on a different clan. Stay tuned, because for the next week I'll be showing off both budget and full deck builds for each of the 5 clans of Tarkir. I hope these videos are of some help to you. You can help me keep making videos just by remembering to subscribe, like, share, or even just by leaving a comment. Clicking any one or all of those buttons genuinely helps me keep doing this. And remember to help out your local game store too by buying your Magic cards and supplies there whenever possible. You can't play Magic at Target or Walmart, so spend that cash where you spend time playing this great game.